Yeah, he went from $16 an hour at a part-time job, his first year in sales. He did $80,000. And what was crazy is one of the people from his dealership, he said something to me because I went to an event that they had. And, you know, around the dealership, because I know the owner of that dealership. And so I spoke to him to actually kind of help Juan get the job. Juan was using his network. And so so one of the guys, he kind of knew the story and kind of what I was doing, how I helped Juan. He kind of comes to me and goes, you know, Juan he probably could have did this without you. And I looked at him and I said, I agree with you. I said that the difference between Juan doing it with me and without me is probably 7 to 8 years, which is typically most people don't really kind of figure it out and find that footing until their late 20s, early 30s. All I did was accelerate what he was already going to do. Because Juan was hungry. Juan is motivated. Juan is that person that was chomping at the bit trying to figure it out. He was just doing it in a way where he was in college and out of college. In college, I don't want to be in college, but when I go out of college, I feel like I'm not moving forward. So I'm going to go back to college. And I'm here, but I'm not fulfilled. So now I'm not in college. And then he gets a skill set where it's like, hey, I think this is what I was looking for. And now, I mean, the kid goes to Florida like every month. You know, like he put a significant amount of money in his savings account. I've got multiple reports from one of my other students. Her mom told me, she was like, yeah, I've seen my daughter's bank account. She's got over 5 figures in her bank account, and she's a year out of high school. And for her, she works in the restaurant industry, and she wasn't making nearly as much money because she was shy and wouldn't communicate. She learned how to communicate. She has implemented the psychology of sales into how she does her job. And literally her mom told me that. She says, I've seen her bring in multiple weeks the amount of money I was bringing in as a travel nurse.
Oh, wow.
Working as a restaurant, as a server.
Well, welcome to the Best Bet Show. I am Carlette Claire, and I will be your host for today. I'm sitting here with Best Bet Dan, and we are going to talk about some of the training and the programs that he has for Best Bet Consulting. And if you're a parent, this is where you need to be right now, because we're going to dig deep into this program and what this would mean for your child or children. So without further ado, let's get started. Best Bet Dan, tell me, what is Best Bet? What is your business?
Yeah. So when we think about the phrase in and of itself, right, your best bet, right? I think about, a lot of times when someone's giving directions, they'll say, hey, you can go this way, but, at this time of day, your best bet is to maybe take this route, right? Because you can get there a little faster. And so we say that all the time, in just, our vernacular. And so when I thought about what I was putting together, I'm putting together a training ground for high value communication and social skills that will give you the best bet to actually creating the lifestyle and just the type of outcomes that you want in your life, both personally and professionally. And so Best Bet is a training ground, and it's inspired by my journey. So in my early 30s, I saw that I had a life that I could control. I could, go make money when I needed to make money. I had the ability to kind of function at higher levels, but I didn't have a college degree. I didn't have just a whole bunch of kind of certifications behind my name, but I had the ability to communicate at a high level. And as I kind of thought through and broke down, hey, how do I do what I do? It came down to networking and relationship building, sales, promoting, teaching, leading, public speaking. So I just had an idea, like, hey, what if there was a place that trained young adults on these skills all in one place and really treated it like how college treats like a liberal arts degree, where you're getting training in these topics. So that's where Best Bet came from. That's kind of like the overview, like the 30,000 foot overview. Yeah.
So let's bring it down.
Okay.
To the ground.
Okay.
When you were 13 or 14, when you were a teen, I'm sure that's your demographic, right?
Yeah.
You want young people?
Yep, teenagers. I say typically I like to start around 15, but I do an interview process. So if you got a 13-year-old that's like a good fit, we'll go through the interview process and make sure that this is something for them. But yeah, so
if you were 15, where were you? Like mentally, where were you? Physically, what were you doing?
I was trying to figure it out. So at 15, you know, I was still very much ball is life. So it was all about, you know, how I was going to get to the NBA, you know. So it was, you know, how am I going to play, you know, college basketball? And I knew that I didn't really care for school, right? So I didn't really care for the academic side of it. I had to do it though, because that's how you play sports, right? You couldn't play if you weren't eligible. So school was something that I really tolerated. It wasn't something where I was like, man, you know, I'm really excited about this Algebra 2 today.
I wasn't either.
Like, that was never like the case. It was always more so, all right, I want to play basketball and I want my parents off my back. So I need to try and do this work. And so I think I knew that I wanted to live a good life. And as I look back, one of the things that I kind of found is, so I grew up in a middle class family. And for me, basketball or sports was a way to a lifestyle that was bigger than middle class. And so that was subconsciously what I was looking for. Is like, man, I want a nice house. You know, I want to be able to do nice things, take vacations. And so to me, I thought this is how I can get myself there. Now, I didn't grow up in like poverty, but even still, I find that so many young people and a lot of black young people, right? We kind of see sports and entertainment as the way out, or as the way to get to, you know, a lifestyle where it's like, hey, like I actually enjoy living versus, you know, kind of living to survive and surviving to live.
Right. So that was your quote way out, right? To say if my sports playing basketball is going to take me there. I'm at the winning shot.
100%.
So at what point did you say that this isn't working?
So I sat the bench my junior year. so I mean, it was just like, and it was funny. It was one of those situations where I had never, ever sat the bench ever in my life in any sport ever. I was always a starter. I was always the guy.
Oh, so he was good.
I was all right. So to get to this point in my junior year, and that's a pivotal year in sport, and to not see the court, it just made me question everything.
You're discouraged. That's discouraging, right?
100%. Yeah. So now I'm just like, all right. So, you know, I am thinking big picture, but I'm not, because now it's just like all I did was just put more pressure on my senior year. So now it's like your brain goes, okay, well, this season was trash. So, you know, your senior year's got to be everything. So I was looking forward to that. And when that got there, that wasn't it either. I like to call myself a starting bench player my senior year. So I started the game, but I was always the first sub. So I always came right out. So I didn't play a top. I played a significant amount my senior, so it wasn't like the worst, but I didn't catch anybody's attention. I got recruited by no one. I did approach a few schools and a few coaches and asked them if they were interested, and they swiftly said no. It was literally...
I do my own marketing.
Yeah, and they weren't interested, and my marketing was not good.
Okay.
And so I think at that point, I had kind of resigned to... I saw like shows like Law and Order on TV and, you know, lawyer shows. And my logic was, well, I like to argue. I like to be right. So then I was like, all right, so I think that's what I want to do. I think I want to be a lawyer. So, and that was kind of always my basketball backup was I'll be a lawyer. But I think my senior year, towards the end of it, it kind of got more real because it was clear that like basketball was not going to be a thing.
Okay.
So, so it was, I went to college for 1 year for pre-law, which...
Where'd you go?
You don't do any law classes.
No.
Your first year.
Use prerequisites.
So I went to MCC here in Rochester.
Okay.
And then I transferred after my first semester. So I did 1 semester at MCC. Then I transferred to Palm Beach Atlantic University down in West Palm Beach.
Okay.
And I did okay there. I passed all my classes. But ultimately, like at that point, I kind of had an awakening, if you will, within myself, where I just knew that I knew that college was not for me. I knew that like I wasn't going to finish college. I was not going to graduate. And however I was going to be successful, it was not going to come because I went kind of that path where, you know, bachelor's degree, master's degree, so on and so forth. So yeah, that kind of got me into my first kind of forays. Forays, I say right? Is it foray?
I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think I said it right. My first taste of entrepreneurship.
Gotcha.
You know.
So this was when you were in West Palm Beach.
So I came back. So I came back, and then I enrolled in MCC for 3 weeks, and I went to
again. So you were MCC first semester, went to West Palm Beach.
Yep.
Did you finish that semester? So it was like 1 year?
Yeah. Yep. 1 full year.
Okay.
And I came back and enrolled in MCC. I went there for 3 weeks, and I went to sleep in every single class.
What was still in law?
No, it was just because they didn't have pre-law at MCC.
Ah, okay.
So I just was kind of back to liberal arts associates. Okay. And again, I'm just drifting. I'm just drifting because
What were you feeling? I mean, like, what was?
I don't want to say confusion, but definitely a little anxiety. You're trying to figure out what to do with your life. I remember me and one of my best friends, we would drive to school every day. And this was in high school, our senior years. And we'd get to the school, and we just stare at the building, at the high school. And we'd just say, next year we got to get up and go somewhere. But we can't come back here. And so I was kind of like back to that, where I'm just like, man, like, what am I doing? You know, I thought I was, you know, doing something, going to Florida. You know, I'm not at that school anymore. I'm back home in Rochester. And just, again, going to sleep every day in class. And not even like I wasn't getting rest, because I wasn't out partying or anything.
You were bored. You needed something.
Literally. Yeah. In hindsight, I'm a late ADHD diagnosis. So now, in hindsight, I realized, oh, snap, you didn't have no dopamine. You weren't narcoleptic. You just didn't have the energy for it, didn't have the dopamine for it. So yeah, I started my first business that semester. And
what was it?
School of Hard Knocks. So
what was your first business?
It was Generation News.
Okay.
And we did a television show where we did all positive news about young adults.
Okay.
So we partnered up down the road a little bit further with Channel 13. Were you at 13? Which station were you at?
What year was this?
This was 08, 09.
No, I had just started at WXXI.
Okay.
So I was on radio at that point.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, 08, 09, Chuck Samuels, he brought us in, and he loved what we were doing. So we had a 1-minute segment inside of the 5 o'clock news.
Okay.
And then we did that. We liked that. And I went back to Chuck, because I'm aggressive. I said, Chuck, we want a full show. Can we do a show? He said, make me a pilot. So we made a pilot. He loved it. And he put us on the air. And we aired for a year on the air.
And just news? What did you talk about?
So only positive stories about teenagers and young adults.
Okay.
So whether it was sports, one of my favorite stories to this day, we got a chance to interview a gentleman, Max Krieger. He's a Brighton High graduate, but he was working as one of the managers for the Syracuse basketball team. And at the time, Syracuse, for the very first time, because even when Carmelo Anthony was there, obviously they won the championship that year, they were never ranked number 1. But this particular year, they had reached the number 1 ranking. So we got to go do the interview while they were the number 1 ranked team in the nation. It was amazing. And so, but we interviewed Max. We interviewed the manager. And it was cool because we talked to these players and we interviewed them about the managers and how they helped them, and specifically how Max, you know, did his job and so on and so forth. So, yeah, sports stories, kids that were young entrepreneurs, we would interview, all types of things like that. So that was the first business.
First business, okay.
Yeah.
And then, so what happened from there?
So what happened is I didn't have the skills that I teach today. I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know how I didn't know how money changed hands. So I'll make that make sense. So we were a nonprofit and we were fundraising, right? So for the person that's listening that says fundraising is not sales, it's not, but they are close cousins. There's very similar structure to how you fundraise and also into how you sell. And so fundraising is very much more of an altruistic sell, it's something where you want to get emotions involved and you really want to, you know, focus on the mission. Well, I could do that. I could get people excited about what we were doing. I did not know how to ask them for money. And so I didn't ask them for money. So I'd have a meeting with a potential donor. I'd wow them, show them our videos, presentation, what we're doing. And then I would just end the meetings. And I thought that they would just offer to write us checks. I thought that that's how it worked. It does not work that way.
No.
And so we really weren't able to raise money. Now, the thing I learned with TV is if you have good content, they will air your content. And they will find sponsors. They will put sponsors into those spaces because they have them on deck.
Exactly. Yes, they will.
And you will not get any money.
They'll make money.
100%.
But not necessarily
100%. And again, this was just, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Correct.
And so, you know, we ended up not being able to continue that because so I wasn't in college, but a lot of the people on the team, so we had a team of about 6 to 7 people that were working with us, people that were doing video, editors, my good friend Justin Ortiz, we started it from day one together.
Okay.
Yeah,
He's still in this.
Yeah, he's still in the space.
This.
Yep.
Okay.
And so they were graduating from college. So the time was going. So now people are like, hey, we're graduating, and so you think we're gonna have salaries from? They're asking me this. I'm like, well, I'm trying. I was trying to figure it out, but ultimately just couldn't figure out how to get to the money.
Right.
And so the show itself kind of disbanded at that point. It had some spurts where it came back because Justin, he was keeping it going on in that aspect in the TV show side of it, but it never really went back to being what it was at that time.
Right.
So so my first venture was met with failure because I just didn't have those skills.
Yeah, the tools today.
Yeah, and one of the things in my journey that I found is that so many people, I wasn't the only one. I'm not the only one. So many people start businesses, but don't have the skill to make the business go. They may have the skill to execute a service or a product, right? Maybe they're really good at cleaning out and detailing cars and have all the equipment. And if there's a dirty car in front of them, in an hour and a half, that car will be a clean car. But what they don't know how to do is they don't know how to price their stuff correctly. They don't know how to create value, and they don't know how to go out and literally prospect. They don't know how to make a sale where it's money exchanging hands, right? Because until money exchanges hands, you really don't have a business. You have an expensive hobby.
My father has said that many times.
Yeah.
He would just be like, it's really just a hobby with certain things. If you enjoy doing it and you're really not profiting much off of it,
right.
It's a hobby.
So so that's where that was. And then it's funny, I went from there and I did a pro basketball tour overseas. I got in great shape, started training like crazy. I made this exposure team and I went over to Europe and did a pro basketball tour, which was amazing. It was an incredible experience. I didn't get signed to a contract, unfortunately. But from there, right, when that season kind of ended, I was like, all right, I didn't have any prospects for that. It was kind of like back to the drawing board. Like, what am I going to do with myself? I am at the time 24, 25, no real skills. Got one failure in my belt, failed a business. And so it's
a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you don't see it like that when you're in it, right?
Well,
when you're in it, you're just like, oh, what's happening? I'm having a midlife crisis at 25. So I ended up getting into sales on accident.
Okay.
So I was gonna become a personal trainer. That's kind of what I had figured out. So I spent some time kind of just, what am I gonna do with myself? I'm like, you know what? I'll be a trainer.
For athletics?
Yeah, just fitness, like personal trainer. And I was always around sports and athletics and always in shape, so I just felt like it made sense. So I went to a job interview for a training position, and they kept talking to me about selling memberships. So I stopped the guy, his name Bob, shout out to Bob. So I stopped Bob and I'm like, Bob, like, why do you keep telling me about selling memberships? Like, when are you going to talk to me about like training people? Like, that's what I came here to do. And he goes, oh, that's what we call our fitness coaches. You answered the ad for a fitness coach. We call our salespeople fitness coaches. And so she was like, yeah, this is a sales position. So immediately, like, oh, I'm like, I don't do sales. I was one of those people. I don't do sales. Sales is, I don't want to convince people. I don't want to beg people. I can't get people to sign up. And so I left the interview. Not like in a rude way, but I just, say, hey, thanks, but no thanks. I couldn't find a job. So after 2 weeks, I went back. And I said, so you mentioned that athletes were good at sales.
Not that.
Right. So I'm like, you said athletes are good at sales. And so, ended up, he gave me a shot. And that's where I started to learn how to sell. And ultimately, ended up kind of falling in love with sales because for the first time, I actually saw what sales really was. I saw that it wasn't about convincing somebody or doing Jedi mind tricks, but it was about helping people to make a decision for them, yes or no. And the volume side of it, or the number side of it, has more to do with you talking to enough people as opposed to making enough people that you're sitting in front of buy, right? And so, so I discovered that. And then Bob, I asked him one day, I said, how'd you get so good at this? Because he used to do our sales trainings.
Okay.
And he was really, really good. Like, I'm about to buy a membership, and I get a free one. I work there. And I'm like, hey, man, take my money, man. You're too good at this. And so so I asked him one day, I said, Bob, I said, how did you get so good at this? Like, because I don't know why, but to me, I picked up on it that this is a skill. And to me, it was like, this is something I could become good at. Okay. And so he told me about Zig Ziglar, who is a renowned sales trainer and motivational speaker who's now passed on. But he couldn't get the name out fast enough. I was already on my phone buying an audiobook like Zig Ziglar. All right, boom, boom. Yeah. And so I very much at that time, I adopted sales as my profession. Okay. It was like, and it's funny, I remember telling my wife, I was like, hey, I'm a salesman. Like, this is, because I felt like I had some purpose. I felt like I actually was in a space where I had direction and I had a skill that could take me somewhere. So like, that's why sales is very near and dear to me, because as an adult, it's the first time that I felt like, hey, I've got something where I feel like I can go and take care of myself. Yeah. Outside of maybe working, at a service job. I mean, my first full-time job was working at a hotel as a bellman. And it paid. I met a lot of cool people doing that. Yeah. But no, sales is kind of, that's when I was like, all right, I feel like I'm making some progress in life.
So it seems like Best Bet Consulting is a combination of the different skill sets you picked up along the way in your journey.
100%. 100%.
And so why youth? Why teens? And not an adult who might say, well, shoot, I need to know what you know.
Right. So it's funny. So the adults, that's maybe, I started working on that, but then I put them on the side. But I thought young people, for a couple of reasons. Young people, especially in this day and age, they are inundated with information. They know more than any generation before them ever knew because they have all of the information in their hands. But with that, they're also some of the least skilled when it comes to social, because they don't have to do this.
Correct.
They don't have to pick up a phone and actually talk to somebody. In so many cases, they're afraid. Yeah. They're afraid. And even with like friends and meeting new people, they're afraid to actually talk and call. And so that was that. But I think the biggest thing was I saw the skill set as a cheat code. And in my mind, it was like, if a young person can function like this at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old at a high level, the outcomes that they can create for their life can be so much, like so astronomically higher that it's absolutely ridiculous. And so that's where I planted my flag, in that I wanted to How can I help a young person get to six figures, whether it be in their own business or in a job, as quickly as possible? What if the 4 years post high school were spent going from 70,000 to 90,000 to 110 to 150 by the time you're 22? What if that was the trajectory? And so that's why I chose this demographic, because I knew that the potential that they could create to build lifestyle, to build lives that are sustainable, right? So one of the biggest things that we're dealing with right now in our country is people are struggling to sustain life. They don't make enough. And a lot of people don't make enough because they don't have skills that are valuable enough. I don't think in a lot of cases that there are people who are bad with their finances, right? They spend more than they make, and it's more of a discipline issue. But from my research and from my experience, there's more people that just don't have skills that are valuable enough.
And what do you mean by that? Like, what's an example of that?
So if you are, let's say construction, right? So construction, there's great money in construction, great money, right? But there's also a cap. They're only gonna pay a laborer so much money, because at the end of the day, you're a laborer. You're moving bricks, you're doing things like that, and there's only so much value that's on that.
There's a lot of value in it, though. They can make good money.
No. So I'm not saying that they can't make good money and that there's no value to it. But what I'm saying is it's capped.
Okay.
Because it's capped by your time and it's capped by your labor. You gotta sleep, and you gotta rest. Like, you can't work 24. You're not a machine, right?
Right.
So you're limited in terms. So let's say you're making great money, but then you start to have a family and life. So now as life grows, your income in those spaces, you can't grow it on your own. You're at the mercy of the employer. So that $35 an hour, that was great when you were a bachelor, doesn't $35 an hour the same way when you have a family. And you don't have the power with that skill set to give yourself a raise. That's what I'm getting to.
Okay. So
Whereas
you're more so the entrepreneurship, being self-employed, you can have the power to elevate yourself.
Sure. And even if you're not an entrepreneur, even if you're in places like sales, corporate training, working in content, all of those spaces, you have the ability to you can grow. And even outside of like your job, you can take that skill set and you can multiply it, right? Because when it comes to earning, and I got this from a guy named Myron Golden, there's 4 levels of earning.
Okay.
There's the labor level, there's the management level, there's the communication level, and then there's the imagination level, right? So that 3rd level, communication, you can do 6 figures to $1 million+ through communicating ideas, whether it be in selling, teaching, public speaking, content creation, whatever. If you're communicating, the cap is so much higher than on management and then on labor. So that's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that when you're a communicator, the ability to earn more is there. You just have to figure out how to do it within your space. Whereas if I'm a laborer for a union, right, I gotta wrench more.
Gotcha.
I got to put in that time.
On different skill sets. Okay.
100%.
So you're leaning more so on the communication skills for young people.
100%.
Teaching them how to network, how to communicate well.
100%.
Okay. Understood.
100%. So that's the thing is people, and even still, like, if you're a great electrician, you can make more if you can communicate that you're a great electrician and you can sell your services.
Yeah.
Even if you're doing side jobs, there are some people that can't even communicate enough to just get side jobs because they don't know how to communicate. They don't have a basic understanding of sales and asking for money. So they might be able to earn more doing side jobs, but they don't have the skill socially to go out and actually capture that clientele.
Gotcha.
So communication even enhances labor. Because if you're a great skilled laborer, but you have the communication part, boom, you can even still grow there. And so going back to kind of original thought is that I think we have less of a problem with people, being extravagant spenders, and more in fact, they don't understand how to increase their earning power. So if you can increase your earning power, now you have more control over your situation, even if you are a W-2 earner. Because companies are always looking for great communicators, whether it be in leadership, whether it be in sales, whether it be in speaking and corporate training, content creation. And I mean, you're a communicator. So you probably see this in your own kind of journey firsthand, where the people who can communicate, they go further because those skills they're at a premium.
Yeah, I would definitely believe employers do. I mean, effective communication is definitely needed and warranted and necessary within different industries. So I think that would definitely help. So what would be the ideal student for you or client?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that I talk about is a young person that's hungry. That's literally the first and only thing.
Meaning that they want more in life, they want to grow, they want to excel.
100%.
What if there's a shy kid who has that in them, but it's untapped? They don't know that yet.
That literally was one of my first students, Tejan Tejada. Tejan was a very shy kid, but ambitious. Tejan knew that he wanted to create certain outcomes. He wanted to be working in video and film. He's very much into that, but he didn't have a voice. He didn't know how to talk to people. And so I was able to, we talked, so I interviewed him, and as we talked, I could tell there was a hunger there. He had a little bit of a stutter, but he had hunger. And for him, it was just like, just show me what to do. And so we started working together, and he quickly, again, that hunger where he took the concepts, and I like to consider Best Bet like a gym.
Okay.
He came to the gym, and we worked through it. We worked on his speaking. We worked on
workout plan.
100%, 1,000,000%. It's a social and communication workout program. And so he is literally not the same person that he was before taking this coaching, because he was hungry. So the hunger that he had to be better, it usurped where he had lack, because that hunger just turned into him just, hey, doing the work to get better.
How would a parent now, do you work with boys and girls?
Absolutely.
So anyone?
Whoever wants to show up.
Okay. So if there's a parent, what would you say to them? Like, what is your... Because obviously you have to talk to the parents to get to the teen
100%.
at this point.
Yeah.
So what is the message to a parent who has a child or children?
The writing's on the wall. That's my message to parents. The writing is on the wall. And what I mean by that is, right now, there's more information than ever before coming out that employers they're dropping requirements for college degrees. It's growing. They're writing articles on it left and right. There was a few in the last couple of months that people sent to me because they know the work that I do.
Okay.
So that's happening. Also, too, education is a huge industry. And right now, formal or traditional education is shrinking by about $40 billion a year. Meaning that parents are aggressively looking at alternatives because the system is antiquated and it's overpriced. So you have a lot of people that have spent a lot of money on degrees that aren't degreeing the way they used to degree.
Math ain't math.
100%. 100%. And so the writing's on the wall where you have to find ways to advocate for your young person to where they're getting skills that will help them to compete. Because now we're not just competing against each other anymore. And we're not just competing against like the machines, like in factories.
Right.
We're now competing against artificial intelligence.
Yes.
It's a different ball game.
It's a different world now.
100%.
So you're not discouraging kids from going to college or school.
No.
Or telling them that they have to open a business. This is basically just encouraging them to communicate better, building esteem,
Mm-hmm.
valuing themselves.
Yeah.
Those types of
But for the ones
soft
that,
skills, so to speak.
yes and no. So soft skills are a part of what I do, but soft skills do not equal high value communication skills. You can walk into a McDonald's and that worker can be very polite and have great soft skills, but there was no exchange of value on the social side. Yeah, they cashed you out and they gave you your burger and your fries, but there was no social currency exchanged. So what I teach is okay, so be polite and understand your soft skills will open the door for you to actually communicate at a higher level. Where now if you impress that person with how polite you are, how you serve them, now you might be able to ask a different question. Like, what kind of work do you do? And start a conversation. Okay. Once you start a conversation, now that's when value starts to be exchanged. And when value is exchanged, that's when opportunity happens. And so soft skills open the door, and many of your kids have soft skills, they have great soft skills, but they don't communicate at a high level in terms of where they're actually getting something out of interactions and not getting something like it's transactional, but having conversations that actually are giving content that could move them forward or foster ideas or creative thinking. And so,
so do you also teach value?
Yes.
Because
100%.
It's under the assumption that a young person might feel valuable. Maybe they don't, or they don't understand what their value is to even communicate at that higher level.
100%. So when it comes to value, and I love having this conversation with my students, everybody knows what value is, but not everybody really understands value.
Do they know what value is?
Oh, absolutely. Because when those new Jordans come out, when that new iPhone comes out, they understand they want that by any means necessary, right? They'll beg their parents, they'll go find money, they'll sell this, sell that. So there's conceptually there's it's there, but when you kind of really break it down, you let them see like, hey, like, what is value really though? Like, if you're valuable to a company, that means that they would much rather have the money that it costs for you to work there than they would have that in their bottom line, because you add more to them than the money does. And so when you have that conversation with them, you start to really kind of break it down and say, hey, look, like, whenever you buy something, those Jordans that you bought, you decided that the Jordans were worth more than the $225 that was in your account. You decided, I want the sneakers more. This has more value to my life for whatever reason than this money does. And I encourage, so we talk like, so why is that sneaker so valuable? What did that sneaker do
for you?
Right. And as they start to think, it's like, wow. And they get it and they see maybe that sneaker shouldn't have that much value. Or they start to think maybe these things should have more value. You know,
sorry, you can finish.
I was gonna say one of my favorite conversations that I have with students is when I talk about grades. So I don't care about grades. And I say that like I just don't care about them. Either you're gonna do the schoolwork or you're not, right? And you gotta figure that out. Like, based on what your path is, based on what your goals are. Like, you can hate school, but if you wanna be a neurosurgeon, you better figure out them grades. 100%.
Yeah.
And so, but for the kids who are, maybe they're not as committed to school, you know, I tell them, I say, your biggest issue right now is you don't see value in that work. And they're like, oh, 100%, it's worthless. We'll never use this in life. And I tell them, I say, you're right. You're 100%. Then they look at me like, wait, hold on, you agree? I'm like, yeah. But I'm like, hey, what's in the work, the value that's there is it's a platform for you to build discipline. Discipline is valuable. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how talented you are, it doesn't matter how connected you are, it doesn't matter what you have set up. If you can't show up, and if you're undisciplined in how you do life, then you're not going to get where you want to get to. So that chemistry class that you hate, well, what if you saw that class as a training ground for you to become a more disciplined person? Understanding that you will need discipline to do anything you want to do. Whether if you want to be a great gamer, you need discipline. You got to sit there and play the game. You can't be, doing this. You got to be dedicated to playing that game. right? If you want to be the greatest basketball, it doesn't matter. And I think you know this from your journey. Discipline is everything. And so what I tell people is like the value in your schoolwork, even if you're never going to use it ever again, it's a platform, it's a gym, right? Going back to the gym again. It's a place where you get to build muscle because it's there is friction. You don't want to do it. And honestly, I didn't have that mindset when I was in high school. I wish I did, because throughout my journey, I suffered a lot personally from being undisciplined in seasons. And also too, not knowing I had ADHD, that's a part of it. And it's funny because I always thought it was being undisciplined, and that's a whole nother wild story. But either way, no matter what your relationship with discipline is, you have to figure, like, so my relationship with discipline is different. My relationship with discipline is not, I'm going to be disciplined to, work on something for 10 hours a day. That's not how it works for me.
Right. Everybody's got their own
right.
kind of path of what works.
100%. My relationship with discipline in this day and age is I work 50 minutes at a time. And for the 50 minutes that I'm sitting down, whether it's writing, sending emails, whatever I'm doing that 50 minutes, is how much can I get done? How productive can I be in that 50-minute spurt? And so that's what my relationship with discipline is. And so value is super important. Yeah. We do touch on that. And overall, there's two really cool outcomes that I didn't plan for that I see with this. One is communication between my students and their parents. I didn't go into this thinking like, man, this is going to help kind of that relationship.
Yeah.
But here's what happens. When young people learn stuff that matters and that counts, they naturally want to share it. They want to tell mom or dad, look, like I learned this in this best bet thing that I'm doing, and I tried it and it worked. Hey, we talked about this in best bet, and boom, I went over here and I did this, and this is what happened when I did this.
Yeah.
And so I have so many parents that have said, my kid, they tell me about this stuff. They never tell me about what they learned in school. And it's not shade against school. It's just, I'm just what one thing is and one thing isn't, So that has been a huge piece. And the other thing is confidence. Yeah. These young people have become so much more confident because one of my kids, he told me, he was like, before I started working with you, he was like, I was taking pictures. He's a photographer. His name is Matt. Shout out to Matt. So I was taking pictures. I knew I was a good photographer, but I didn't know how to make money. Right. So when I wanted money, I just didn't know how to get it. He was like, but now, he was like, literally, like if my friends want to do a camping trip and I need like $500 to go on that trip, I literally I know how to go book shoots. I know how to prospect. I know how to go through the process, go through the numbers, and I book shoots. And he's like, I literally just go get money. That's what he says. Like, I just go get money. You taught me how to do that. I said, shout out to you. But that confidence piece is so awesome because there are so many young people that can't get a result. They don't have the ability to just go manufacture results. And so I think that's I love that about the young people that I work with, is that they can go make things happen.
One of your clients, I think it's Juan, who was mentioning he met you. He said you're a great mentor, and he had a part-time job, and then now he, I believe, works for a dealership and on commission and making more money than he thought. Yeah. So it just seems like you're kind of giving these young people the tools they need to kind of take them up a level or to the next step or learn more about themselves and what they're capable of. Yeah. And see that they're making money is not difficult when you have the right skills. I think what Juan's story was kind of wild. He didn't want to take the course at first. I had to fight him a little bit to enroll. And he's someone I could do that with. We had that type of relationship beforehand. But he went from $16 an hour at a part-time job, his first year in sales. He did $80,000. And what was crazy is one of the people from his dealership, he said something to me because I went to an event that they had. And, around the dealership, because I know the owner of that dealership. And so I spoke to him to actually kind of help Juan get the job. Juan was using his network. And so
So one of the guys, he kind of knew the story and kind of what I was doing, how I helped Juan. He kind of comes to me and goes, Juan he probably could have did this without you. And I looked at him and I said, I agree with you. Mm-hmm. I said that the difference between Juan doing it with me and without me is probably 7 to 8 years, which is typically most people don't really kind of figure it out and find that footing until their late 20s, early 30s. Mm-hmm. All I did was accelerate what he was already going to do. Because Juan was hungry. Juan is motivated. Juan is that person that was chomping at the bit trying to figure it out. He was just doing it in a way where he was in college and out of college. In college, I don't want to be in college, but when I go out of college, I feel like I'm not moving forward. So I'm going to go back to college. Mm-hmm. And I'm here, but I'm not fulfilled. So now I'm not in college. And then he gets a skill set where it's like, hey, I think this is what I was looking for. And now, I mean, the kid goes to Florida like every month. He put a significant amount of money in his savings account. I've got multiple reports from one of my other students. Her mom told me, she was like, yeah, I've seen my daughter's bank account. She's got over 5 figures in her bank account, and she's a year out of high school. And for her, she works in the restaurant industry, and she wasn't making nearly as much money because she was shy and wouldn't communicate. She learned how to communicate. She has implemented the psychology of sales into how she does her job. And literally her mom told me that she says, I've seen her bring in multiple weeks the amount of money I was bringing in as a travel nurse.
Oh, wow.
Working as a restaurant, as a server. And so communication makes a difference. At the end of the day, when you can communicate messages on a high level for people to receive and to metabolize, it's a cheat code.
Cheat code.
That's my thing. It's a cheat code. And it's the best bet. Think about it. Like if you're going to place a bet, right? Don't you want to make the best bet?
You do want to make the best bet. So why should parents bet on you?
Oh, man, I think they should bet on me because this is personal. It's not just sending $50,000 a semester to a college where you don't know any of the professors at that school. As a parent, if you're watching this, think about what's the last time you spoke to a professor at these universities that you paying top dollar to send your kid to. My parents can reach me. I fight for their kids. I'm in the trenches with them. If I don't see kids for a while, I'm like, hey, we haven't talked in a while. One of my day one kids, we've been texting the last 2 days. I just hadn't heard from him in a while. And we started working together in 2021. And so it's a personal approach, but then it's also skills that count. It's skills that are worth something. It's skills that they're so powerful that they can exponentially make your life better. So like literally almost overnight when you start to use them. The level of awareness that these young people get because they understand that opportunities are literally a conversation away. And you can have conversations with anybody because I teach you how to start a conversation. So like they know. And so I think that parents should trust me and should send their kids with me if their kid's a good fit. We got to make sure they're a good fit. But because this isn't about just putting them through a system. This isn't about, hey, I want to see so many kids go through this. This is about, no, we're staying on this concept until you get it.
So it's catered.
100%, yeah. And they go through, one of my students, she spent 3 months just in one module learning networking and relationships because she was getting life from it and she was getting results from it. And early on, before we started working together, when I was interviewing her, she said that she felt like networking was one of her strong suits, that she wouldn't need to. And I want to say about 2 weeks in, she was just like, yeah, nah, I didn't know how to network. She's like, I thought I knew what networking was, but I really didn't know what it was. Okay. And so it's things like that, and understanding that, like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Mm-hmm. It's not what you do, but it's how you make people feel. And all of that comes through communication. Parents will spend, and I watch them spend, tens of thousands of dollars on travel sports. Sports is a season. Most of your kids, once they leave high school, they won't play a sport again. It's a season, but you're investing premium, and I'm not mad at you for it. The experiences are great. I'm not saying don't invest in sports, but what I am saying is that investing in something like this for your student, they're going to communicate for a lifetime. Them being able to communicate at a high level could one day be the difference between, I don't know, there's so many things. I can't even think of an example, but there's so many things that literally ride on communication that why wouldn't, if this is available to your student and it's something that they take interest in and they're like, wow, like I'd like to learn more about that. Why wouldn't you? Because you literally have nothing. They're going to communicate until they leave this planet.
Sure.
So why not get coaching in it? Why not take a next step and see, hey, is this something that would be the best bet for my kid?
So how could they do that? If I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm saying, I don't know, this program seems pretty interesting, but how can I learn more? What would I have to do?
So I've got a masterclass for parents. So the link is going to be in the description of this video. Few minutes, 20 minutes, where I really kind of go into depth on the subjects, why I teach what I teach, and really how it works in concert and how students can use it both professionally and in real life. And then from there, if you're like, wow, like this makes a lot of sense, you can schedule an interview. You can schedule an interview where we talk and we meet and we start to decide, hey, is this the best bet for my student? And that's for the full program that comes with coaching. There's some one-to-one coaching that's involved in that. There's group coaching. But then also, if you've got a kid who you're like, I think they're on the fence, maybe I just want to see if they'll bite on this. I sell my full curriculum. So they can just buy the curriculum and just have the kid go through it. They can go through it with their student, and they can just get that on my website at bestbetlife.com. And they literally, either they can walk through the curriculum with their student, or they're able to maybe get in there and see like, wow, this is a good fit. And then if they want to go forward with coaching from there, they can do that as well.
So either do the online course separately or do the course with you as a coach.
100%.
Two different outcomes.
Yeah. Yep.
It's fantastic. I mean, do you often see yourself in these kids, which when you're saying it's personal, I mean, it's a personal touch with the families and the young people, but then it's personal for you.
Absolutely.
Because
they
were you.
100%. I think back and I can only imagine what could have happened if somebody like presented me with Best Bet Skills Academy when I was 17 years old. Like how much differently my perspective on life would have changed and the opportunities that I would have seen that I didn't see because I didn't live with that level of awareness. And so I do love it. And, I try to stop myself from living vicariously through them. I have to realize that they're on their own journey. And so, as much as I do push and I do coach, I do take my hands off. Because they've got to go through their stuff. One of my students, he's in sales now. He just finished his first year of college. He's got a sales job for the summer. He calls me. He goes, man, I wish I would. He's African, so I'm talking his accent. He's like, I wish I would have taken your course so much more seriously because everything you saying, like you was the real deal. Like they're telling me this now, and I'm like, see, but I'm like, you know what? Better to say this now at 19 than at 39.
True.
And that's what I said to him. I said, bro, it's cool. Number one, you're still in with me. We can still work together. And I said, but now you understand that it's not about information because you got information, but you could have done a better job on committing to building skill. So again, he saw that, but most people don't get that until they're 35. And they're like, oh man, I wish I'd have had this 10 years ago, 15. For him, it's last year. And he's still in the ecosystem. So it's not like, and so for me, that was, even though he was kind of like coming at a negative perspective, it was still very encouraging because he's 19 and he's
time to go,
a whole bunch of time and he's in the system, so he can always build.
All right. Any parting words, things that you think is really important for people to know about your course and your program?
Yes. I want to say this. So if you're a parent and you have a student, so one of my absolute targets are young people who are ambitious and intelligent but don't do well in school. And so this is something I've heard multiple times from that parent is, I don't know if I want to invest because they have not shown me that they can do school. You know, so why would I invest if I'm not sure how they'll do? And what I want to say to that parent specifically is that they've never been in a situation where they had something that made so much sense from an academic standpoint, that was so practical. That's one of the biggest compliments that I've got to get from my students, is that, like, this stuff is real. We actually use this stuff. And so if you're that parent who, in the back of your mind, you're watching, you're like, man, this is really good, but my kid has always gotten F's, or they never commit to anything. Give them a shot, because they've never seen anything like this before. And when you get different information, you get an opportunity to make a different decision. And so give your kids a shot. Let them bet on themselves.
There's no better way to end that. Bet on yourself. It almost reminds me of a scripture. I think it may have been what God was saying to, I think, Abraham, if I'm not mistaken. But he said he looked to his right and to his left, and he didn't see anyone else. So he basically bet on himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's very similar. But if you can find the value within you and learn how to communicate that,
boom,
there's nothing that you can't do.
Literally, like, the world functions on communication.
Yep.
And the sooner you build that skill, the simpler things get.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Dan.
Awesome. Thank you, Carlette. I appreciate you. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is fun.
All right.
You guys want to sign up.